Hello, my name is Bartholomew Ryan and I am originally from Ireland, based in Lisbon in Portugal for over a decade, where I'm a research fellow in philosophy, and I guess I'm a writer, a musician of the band the Loafing Heroes, and also a teacher and lecturer at the new University of Lisbon. And today I'd love to recommend a book very dear to my heart and other people's hearts, a very small book called Love's Work by Gillian Rose, and it was originally published in 1995, the year that Gillian Rose died actually, at the young age of 48, and it's been recently republished by Penguin at the end of 2024, last year. I guess very quick background: Gillian Rose was a philosopher and a writer, and a very feisty, courageous, curious person, and she was born in London. Her parents were kind of from Jewish descent from Poland, and a lot of tragedy from her grandparents' background from World War II, from the Holocaust, and she grew up in London, and she studied. Her first publication was on Theodor Adorno, The Melancholy Science, and she went on to write different books like The Dialectic of Nihilism and The Broken Middle. These very complex, difficult works, and this it has a big connection to this book, because this was a very different than her philosophy academic book. She had a position as a professor at Sussex University and then Warwick University as professor of social philosophy, but this was the final work she wrote or published when she was alive, and it's a memoir, and it's less than 100 pages long, and it's called Love's Work, as I say, and it has 8 different sections, and it kind of throws you right into the middle of things, and she writes so beautifully, like a poet, but very tough. Her personality comes out, and it starts with kind of in the 8 sections she's giving you kind of snapshots of her life and what it is to live, the art of living and the art of loving. Well, the art of living is the art of loving for her, and the work for her is something, the work is this power of love. Work is difficult, and her students used to complain, but this is so difficult, and she said, of course it's difficult, because life is difficult, and this was kind of her mantra for her life, that to make difficulties everywhere. It's good to be in difficulty. Life is messy, it's mixed up, it's a contamination. Purity is not an option. So she was always looking for this broken middles, as she would call it, the in-between, to get away from this, I guess, the nightmare or nostalgia of history, but also, and not fall into this anxiety or kind of superficial optimism for the future, but rather let's throw ourselves into the middle of things, into the mix. And she even called writing a mixture of discipline and miracle, she says in this book. And unfortunately she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer 2 years before she died, and there's a section on illness and cancer. She's so kind of ferociously courageous talking about that, and she's ruthless with her friends as well. And the last chapter is on philosophy, her real passion, and she describes philosophy, kind of what the 3 components of philosophy, actually in another work that was published posthumously called Paradiso, which is unfinished. It's almost like a continuation of Love's Work, and it really helps us to understand why philosophy is so important. She kind of says that philosophy has this infinite intellectual eros, this kind of erotic desire to learn, that's really so important in philosophy. And secondly, the capacity to pay attention, attending to something, and this was part of her idea of love, to be present. Really, she was asked in an interview actually in Ireland, do you believe in eternity? And she said, of course I do, it's the only thing we have, eternity. And what she meant by that, really, as far as I understand, is that this being tuned into the present, be attending to something, this attention, and this is so essential to her idea of eternity. And you see this in different ways. Kierkegaard, the Danish philosopher, was she was very fond of and very influenced by the idea of the moment, the blink, the twinkle of the eye. The word in Danish is øjeblik, which literally means a glance of the eye, which you find also, of course, in the New Testament by St. Paul, the twinkling of the eye, and it comes up in different ways. You have it, the epiphanies in Jamesu Joyceu or in William Blake, this kind of tuning into this very intensified, or she would say the aegon of the present. So this is the second part of the attending, kind of paying attention. The third part of being a philosopher is the idea of pathlessness, not being afraid to not know where you are. You have to be on a strange road, this fearlessness in the face of the unknown. And that's the other thing she talks about as well. So you have this intellectual eros, you have the attention, and then you have pathlessness. You see, I'm already getting lost myself. And so work itself, and I'll finish up here, work itself for her is this power of love. Unlike the text, and she kind of made enemies in different places. Text, you like to use the word text in the 90s, and text this, text. For her, that's just a finished product or a result or looking into a fragment. But the work, a work of love, is to be the endeavour. And again, I'll end with a quote by Kierkegaard. He used to say in a book called Works of Love that to the earnestness of death belongs the remarkable capacity for awakening. So there's a lot of death in this, but through looking at death, we are inspired to live with all our passion and eros. And she says in the last, in the sentence, all the pain that she gives us and the aegon and the different elements of sadness through loss and love. She says, I will stay in the fray in the revel of ideas and risk, learning, failing, wooing, grieving, trusting, working, reposing in this sin of language and lips. So Love's Work by Gillian Rose. I warmly recommend. Thank you.